And
we're live.
uh,
First and foremost, dude, now that we're live, I have you on here just for a little diversity because I figured.
I'm your diversity, and me and Big Mike are your diversity. Bro, you must be at
Yeah,
the bottom of the barrel if I'm your diversity and inclusion
but you are like,
guest.
it's turning out to be like you are like the all there is insurance, bro. Like,
I hit up on a little bit of everything. Speak Spanish, half black, mostly look white, got curly
mostly,
hair.
mostly look white, and I feel like we're just starting to crack the surface with you.
Yeah, man, it's always been a thing in my family. It's my mom's black, my dad's white, and somehow I came out Jewish looking.
You do look kind of.
So
Hey,
I got the best of both worlds. I could run a bank one day. You never know.
that's what I always say about like Drake. Like he's Canadian, looks Puerto Rican, but evidently he's somewhat black enough to drop the N bomb and stuff. So
Oh, Drake's. Have you ever seen Drake's dad? Drake's dad definitely looks like he's like a Dominican or like Cuban dude who's out here. Like it definitely looks like he could have been next to or Pablo Escobar rather.
you got the same vibe. And coincidentally, you're both into music.
Yeah, we're both a little bit into music. You know, Drake's got a little head start on me, but not for long, son.
Not
I'm
for
coming for you, big Drake.
that being said, dude, I've been listening to your album. For the audience, Isaiah just dropped an album, and if I can link it, I'm gonna link it because it's actually good,
Ooh,
man.
thank you. I appreciate that. I feel the actually good part because everybody knows somebody who makes music who's trash. And
Yeah,
it's
for
hard. It'd be
real.
hard when your friends tell you that they make music. You don't even want to listen to it because if it's trash, then you got to see them again.
So is it all you? Is everything just solo you? Are you solo?
Yeah, I produce everything. I mix and master everything, write everything, and record everything in my home studio. Um, I can't show you
Damn.
right now because it won't let me switch. It won't let me switch views, but you could probably see what I'm working with here. The audience won't be able to, but yeah, I started doing it like 5, 6 years ago. Just had like a crappy little laptop and a microphone and an audio interface. I've been doing it for like 6 years. Started off just like recording and rapping, and then got into producing maybe like 2 years in. Started doing that and then started engineering my own stuff because it's just expensive to work with engineers and go to studios. It might cost you like $400 for an hour of studio time with a good engineer.
So you decided to invest your time in cutting out the probably like one of the hardest parts of production, right?
Yeah, I would say like the engineering is really hard. It's not really hard, but just people it's just intimidating. It takes a long time to learn. And production can be kind of intimidating too. So I was just like, I don't have anything better to do. I'm gonna spend 2, 3 hours a day doing this every day. I've been doing that for like 4 or 5 years now. And then, just starting to see the fruits of labor. It was a lot of bad music for a long time, man. You would not believe some of the crappy stuff I got on my hard drive. Nobody will ever hear some of the stuff I got on my hard drive.
if I if I plan on sticking with this, I plan on having bad podcasts for a few years. So
Yeah, man, that's just part of it. It's like, even Joe Rogan's got everybody's got bad like work if you do art. I'm sure you've
oh
probably got
yeah.
sneakers that you've done before that you're like, ooh, that didn't turn out quite the way I wanted it to. Maybe
Oh
not you. You're such a gifted artist.
dude, I just dug out the first pair of custom shoes I ever painted and I cringed. And I when I made them, I thought they were so dope, like they weren't cringeworthy.
Bro, one day when we're at the gym, I'll show you the first like couple songs I ever put out, and you'll be like, "Dang, man, you should have stayed in Wisconsin with that bullshit."
Bro, I was blown away. Like I didn't know. I just saw you posting it, and I'm like, I like music, and I like it. I like supporting. Like my friend Tias, he makes rap, and
Oh, for real?
he goes by Meta, and I actually think he does really good rap. And it's not like pop. It's not like your average music. And like
Yeah, it's
when you did yours, I couldn't figure out what genre it is, bro.
yeah.
Like
I like tried to really like melt genres together. I try to like bring like MF Doom and Madlib and Jay Dilla style production and fuse it with like I listen to a lot of like Tame Impala and like indie rock artists, and I like pop music too and jazz. So it's just like all my influences kind of melded together to make what that album is. And it's the first piece of work I've done where I produced all of it, mixed all of it, mastered all of it, everything.
bro, I feel like it's got like a little bit of like a Kid Cudi meets
Okay.
Gorillas meets a
Okay.
little bit of Mac Miller when you get rolling in there.
Yeah,
Like,
it's kind of funny because there's like certain parts where it hits the hip hop notes and it like feels very like early 2000s SoundCloud era hip hop, and then there's also parts where it's like songs like "Telling Myself" are just like weird because they're have all these loud vocal samples and they're like singing, and I mean, it just came from also like a weird place of like being out in Florida. I wrote a lot of these songs before I was at the gym, and before I was at the gym, I didn't have like a ton of homies out here, so you just like spend a lot of time sitting in home making music, and it came out cool. I'm excited that it's out now because I haven't been able to like make anything good since I made the album, and now I feel like that it's out. I can actually start like making good music again. It doesn't everything doesn't feel so like corny like it did for a while.
what's your goal with it?
I mean, my goal would be like one of two things. I would love to be an artist, but I would really love to be like a songwriter. I would love to like write songs and let other people be an artist. Like I want to my goal has always been like rich but not famous. Like I would love to help people make music, have songs on the radio, not be the singer, be able to travel the world but not have to tour 9 months out of the year. That way I can have a family. I can
Mm.
go to a grocery store and not have ever. I mean, don't get me wrong, it'd be cool to be like Drake, and I'm sure like the women and the finances and all the things that come with that are super cool too. But I was like, I'd rather be rich than famous. You know, be able to
Yeah.
make money off of it, write songs all day. You know, go train. Like my ideal life is I wake up, eat breakfast, go train some jujitsu, maybe work out, come home, write some songs, smoke a joint, put my feet up, and just like if I could do that every day, man, you would never hear a complaint out of me.
We need to team up.
We do, dude. I mean, we both need to be connected with more artists out here because the more I look around, there is kind of a cool little art scene in Tampa and certain areas in St. Petersburg, but you really got to
Right.
search to find it out here. It's not as prevalent as some other places I've been where like everyone's about art. There's some cool little pockets, but you got to find them.
I could always design some album art or something. I don't know.
Dude, I would
Team up
love
with.
that because I that's one thing I have no talent in is visual art.
Yeah.
I cannot draw, I cannot paint, nothing. How did you get
What?
started making like your shoes and stuff?
Well, it's funny because like it's just like one of them things that I've like slowly fallen into. It wasn't like jujitsu, like where I walked in and I'm like I'm in love. It was
Hmm.
like always scheming. I was always hustling. I'm always trying to find out how to make money. And then like one thing I would do and hate it or love it is I would like buy and resell shoes. Like
Yeah.
Jordans would drop, Yeezys would drop. I didn't even give a fuck about them. I just would buy them as many as I can, sit on them for like 6 months, and then flip them when they're not available anymore. And then
Mm.
like over time, I started liking the shoes, and then uh, I don't know. I came across like someone on. I was like looking at a pair of Jordans one day, and I wanted to change the color, like some of the colors around. And I think this was a pair I finally decided to keep for myself. And I saw like a guy on YouTube who was like making custom pairs and like just adding all this stuff to them. Like, damn. And it's kind of funny, but like one of my dreams would be to like own a brand, like in
Yeah, for
merch.
sure.
Like I've always wanted to own like a brand in merch. And I wanted to take like a designer approach to like a shoe, like how you got
Hmm.
like Off White or Union. They all kind of do their own little twist on their like collaborations. And I just decided like I don't know. I just went down the rabbit hole, and then as I kept getting deeper, I'm just like, oh, you could paint this. Oh, I could do that. And then I would just see a pair of shoes, and I would just see something like. Now that I knew I had the ability to change them, like I couldn't stop wanting to change shit.
And then you
So
probably get to the point where every pair of shoe you see, you're like, oh, I wish if they would have done this, it'd been perfect. Let me go in and like do this to that shoe and make it
yeah,
exactly how I like it.
I did it for like a year or two, and then I saw like NFL players were wearing them. Like it was like started on TV. They're like, "Oh, my cause, my cleats," and I'm
I've
like,
seen those
"Shit."
too. Yeah, that's dope.
I was
I've
like,
seen
"Shit,
people
I
wear
gotta
like
get like,
Majin Buu ones.
yeah, I gotta get a hold of an NFL player." And then lo and behold, Jake comes in and knows NFL guys. So I did Tano's pair, and I did a pair for MGK. Well, my buddy who knows MGK, I did a pair, and I left him at his house, and I guess they're his size, and he was like, or I was like, if you ever see MGK, you can give them to him or whatever. Like, just kind of wishful thinking, or if he ever wants anything, let me know. But I ended up putting like a bunch of feelers out. Haven't
Well,
really. But
I
with
have a
MGK,
cousin.
I don't do high heels, so I don't think I'll ever hear from him.
Did make him in the. I'm sure him and Megan probably wear the same size too.
I'm sneak. Yeah, right. So,
But I have a cousin who knows Odell, or he has. I know a cousin who has a friend who knows Odell, and I was in Miami last year, and my cousin runs off and he comes back and he's like, "Oh, I was in Odell's apartment that he has in Miami," and was showing me a bunch of pictures. So next time I see him, I'll have to see if I can't get him to like plant a pair in there for you,
bro, he's
just
got
like
like one
leave
of the
them in there.
best. He's got one of the best guys in the game making him pairs too.
Really?
But shit, yeah, but nothing I would turn down. Don't get me wrong though.
Yeah, and
I've
he's
seen
only
some of
the
his
best in the
pairs.
game
He's
because
got
he
some
ain't seen
serious
your
shit.
shoes.
Yeah, man. What when it comes to music, like what was your inspiration? Like what got you? It takes a motivated person. I don't know if it's let me back up a little bit. Is it more of like a motivation of like a means to an end, or is it just like something you fell into and started liking it and you just kept chasing it?
It honestly just became kind of an obsession, and then like it's even sometimes like kind of an unhealthy obsession where like I when I get home after work, it's like if I don't make music or if I get home from jujitsu and I don't like at least spend like 20 minutes to an hour doing it every day, I don't feel productive or I don't feel like I got anything done, and then I won't sleep. I'll be in bed like, oh, I got to do something. Grab, strum some chords on your guitar, man. Something, do something. You're losing ground. So it honestly kind of became like this addiction slash unhealthy obsession with it. And that's just like still what it is. If I don't do it every day, I don't feel like I did anything. Even if I worked 8 hours, if I trained, if I went to the gym and cooked 3 square meals, if I don't touch my instruments or open up Ableton, I don't feel like I did anything. So that's kind of how like that developed. And then I got started doing it because I had a friend who was really into making music. He was the only cat I knew because I grew up in like a small town in Wisconsin, so nobody does art out there. I grew up in a space where it was like people were calling you a queer if you made art or if you wanted to act or sing or play guitar or anything like that. It was like
What?
all football and
Now you're going back and
so
you're gonna go armbar all them motherfuckers.
yeah, really now I go seriously kick some ass. So I
I could
like I
take
didn't
you
have that at
back.
all. Yeah, really. I'm gonna bring you with me and we're gonna go double team them.
Oh
But
god.
so I started, I never really was into music. When I was really young, I loved music, and I took guitar lessons when I was like 7. But then I got back from my freshman year of college. I decided I didn't want to play baseball anymore because I played my freshman year of college. I played baseball. And then I had a homie who had a microphone who was rapping, and he was like, "Why don't you come through?" I started recording, and like the first time I heard my voice on record, I was like obsessed with it, and I was like, "I got to do this more often." Started buying all this stuff, and now I got like thousands of dollars worth of equipment that I couldn't
Damn.
afford at the time, and I was just like, "Yo, what am I gonna do with all this music stuff? I got to try and figure out how to make some money." And with
Wait,
Spotify, you don't make any money, so I'm down a lot of money so far, but we gonna make it back.
so you're trying to learn how to monetize it still.
Yeah, I mean, I could probably monetize it quicker if I was like, I want to do engineering jobs for someone and just like be an audio engineer. Or I just opened up a store last week to sell production. I'm gonna start doing that where I like sell type beats on YouTube and stuff for rappers and for different artists. But yeah, I mean, even as an artist, there's just not a lot of ways to monetize it if you can't tour or sell merch. And I don't have
How
the audience build up yet, so
how
still
like
building
time
that.
consuming is it making this album?
Um, Probably if I were to like compress it into like hours, I probably spent like probably only like 200 hours making it, which sounds like a lot of time, but it's really not that long. But it was like between working full time. I like to exercise. Before I started doing jujitsu, I was powerlifting and stuff. I got to exercise to
Mm,
feel right. So it took me probably like 6 months from when I made the last song on it, Depart. That was the first song I made for the album, and I was like, oh, I want to make an album of songs that sound kind of like this. And then till I put it out, it probably took me like 6 to 7 months.
shit. Yeah. I think you got a little bit of the artist mentality. Like are there a lot of projects you've done but didn't finish?
Oh yeah, like I definitely have a crutch of like I care more about the art than I do about the money, which
Yeah.
like sucks because I feel like I have peers that I grew up with who are making music and who are making money doing it because they were like, I'm want to take like the hustlers approach. So it was like,
Yeah.
I gotta book shows, I gotta make merch, I gotta figure out ways to sell it, I gotta have a website, I gotta ba 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 ba. And they were good at it and they did it and they're like making money and they're starting to phase out of having to work at the same age that I am. But I always took an approach more of like I just want to make music. I just love sitting in the studio. I'm a studio rat. I just love writing songs and stuff. So even if sometimes to my detriment, it's been like that's my love. That's what I really want to do. But I'm not good at monetizing it because I'm not like the super hustle money minded guy like a lot of my peers are who do make money off music.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's something to be said. Maybe you're playing more of the long game. There's tons of artists out there who have, and I think it's important, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's important to kind of stick with like, I know like in business, you're not really supposed to follow feelings, but unfortunately in art, it kind of is a little bit of a passion.
Yeah,
So you kind of,
100%.
and I think that's where it gets tough is you're kind of basing a business off of passion and feelings rather than like just straight like I'm gonna get up at 6, I'm gonna get this shit done by 9, I'm gonna go take a 15-minute lunch and I'm gonna get back to crunching emails. Like it's more of like you have to have like a feel and a flow and like a setting and a mindset ready to go. So it's more about like getting yourself mentally prepped to finish the project, you know? And
And the
that
thing
can
is
be
with like with music and with art and with like a lot of things have like kind of laid out paths to success. Like if you want to drop ship, there's a lot of people who can like set you up a path to success. And if you do X so many times, you will get like Y and Z as a result. With music, it's like you could do all the business side things right, but if you can't make a good song, it doesn't matter. Like,
yeah.
and nobody can really tell you what makes a good song or what makes an artist that's going to have longevity. Because you could like follow trends and say like in 2016, like the mumble rap, Lil Uzi, SoundCloud era was really big. Like you could make music
Oh,
like
I hope
that,
we're
and you
done.
might get yeah, you could have made like a little bit of clout for yourself for a short time, but the trends don't recycle that fast. So then you don't really have any longevity. You don't have a fan base built on what you do or what you like. So then you fizzle out. So I do try and take more of like the long run approach to it and just make what's true to me. And you know, I'm a big fan of like art and creativity comes from somewhere outside of this experience. It comes from like some people call it the source or the creator or God. You know, it comes from outside this existence and it flows through artists. So I just try and let it talk through me. And if, you know, if people like it, that's awesome. If they don't, then at least I got to get it off my chest and I got to create. And it's something that makes me feel good.
Does that make you feel like it's more empathic? Like,
Yeah, it definitely so. Because it's not, because for me, it's not like a means to an end, like you said earlier. Like I'm not making music because I want to be famous. I'm making music because I feel like it, it would come through me one way or another. Like if it wasn't music, it would be drawing. If it wasn't drawing, maybe I would get my creativity with fishing and I would be or a taxidermist. Who knows what the or a mechanic, you know what I mean? There's art in everything. Or maybe a martial artist. Like there's art in martial arts too, which is probably what draws me so much to jujitsu is because like when I'm rolling with somebody and it's like especially when you're with someone who's like about the same size, about the same skill level, it's like very improvisational the same way that like playing instruments with somebody is very improvisational. It's like they do one thing and you react, and then you do something and they react. And jujitsu is kind of the same way. It felt like playing jazz. It's like he grabs my foot, now I got to stand up, and now that I stand up, he's got to react. And there's like a beautiful art to it, and that's what even made me get into watching like UFC fights. Is once I started to see that art, I was like, oh, these guys are doing something like kind of beautiful out there, even though it's bloody. People are getting concussions, they're getting cut up,
yeah,
eyes are exploding, like, and the ugly parts of it. But there's a certain beauty to it too that I really like.
there is a creativity like on the dot with it too.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, that's what's so cool about jujitsu, and I know it gets brought up every time on my channel, which it's probably going to. But yeah, right. Wearing the shirt, you're ready to go for tonight. But
Yeah, I
um,
gotta go get my training in.
yeah, for sure. But in my case, I get like excited to get like sometimes I was more like known more as a scrambler. And
Yeah,
but
so
sometimes
same here.
same, yeah. But sometimes like I like to get creative or end up in funky positions, and then it's just like who can figure out where to go first. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
so
and
you
there's a
gotta
lot
like
of times where you don't have an answer.
sometimes you're like, all right, well I'm gonna roll forward and just kick it and see where we end up. And then sometimes like but other people might not think that way. Other people might just be like strength or brute or just like stick to the fundamentals. Like, but I'm sure as far as art goes, because you're pretty athletic. I mean, on the mats, you you roll really well, especially for uh how long you've been doing it. You haven't been in there for very long, right?
No, and I was an athlete. I played sports like from the moment we moved to Wisconsin, and it went from like because I was born in Seattle, so like everyone in Seattle is like moody, like wants to be the next Nirvana, plays guitar and stuff. So I kind of started off
We're
being like that, and
edgy.
yeah, and then I moved to Wisconsin. And everyone's like, "Dude, you play guitar? You're such a queer. Put on the pads." So then I started playing. I started playing sports really early, and I definitely like leaded me to more athleticism. But then I really started liking jujitsu because it's like very similar to learning an instrument, and I'm like self-taught on all my instruments um, because like in when you learn an instrument, there's like music theory. There's like you can play. These are the scales. These are like paths that you can take to make something sound good. And then there's
Ah,
also the part of you where you can go like, okay, now that you know the scales in music, which is kind of like the technique in jujitsu, you can just play. Like you don't need to think anymore about like you don't need to think about doing a knee cut. You just do the knee cut and it just happens naturally because you just see the opening and it happens. So the more that I train and the more that I develop technique, it's like the more creative you can get because now you're like, now that I know the knee cut, I can combo the knee cut with doing like some other type of pass. And now they all start to chain together and it feels very like musical when you're able to just like stop thinking and get into like the flow state that like really
mhm.
happens a lot when you train with people who are kind of similar uh, skill set to you or similar like ability, and that's where I got really drawn into it. And then I was also just loved to scrap growing up. Like have I'm one of seven kids with six
Uh,
or five older brothers, and I'm like hands down the smallest and the youngest, and like by a pretty big gap. Like my closest brother to me is 8 years older than me, and my oldest brother's 25 years older than me. So like I always loved to scrap. I always loved to fight with them and like try and wrestle and pick on them. So from a very young age, like I just liked to do stuff like that. And I like coming home with like a little bit of a black eye or my lip cut up. My girl's like, "Oh my God, who cut your lip?" I'm like, "Oh, don't worry about it, baby. You know me, I'm tough." You know what I mean?
there are
So
two
I
types of
love it.
people. There's the people who want cauliflower ear and the people who don't want cauliflower
Which is
ear.
funny. I love black eyes and I don't mind having fat lips, but you'll never see me with my ears blown up. Like, I
Oh,
always wear
oh yeah,
headgear.
you do wear headgear.
I wear headgear. I don't want to get my ears blown up. But it's funny, the longer that I do jujitsu, the less that I like when I first started seeing people who had really bad cauliflower ear, because there's only like 4 or 5 guys in the gym who have it really bad. I'd be like, no way in hell. And now I see it, I'm like, it does kind of look tough. Like I do kind of see the appeal. Or like when I see UFC fighters that have it really bad, I'm like, it does kind of look tough. I see that.
I've gotten lucky with that shit. Mine's like
Yours
healed
isn't
up and
bad.
nah, you can like
Did you drain yours when you got it?
y- yeah, like this one's like kind of it's more on the back end. Like if you squeeze my ear, like
You
on
can
that
feel
side,
it.
if you squeeze it, it's thick and it's hard. But it
Same
blew
with
up in
Zach's ears.
yeah, it blew up into my ear hole. So still to this day I can't put headphones in that side. But it's really cool, man, because I and this is for all the cauliflower ear folk out there. I found these headphones. I think they're called Jawbone or I don't know. They're on Amazon, but they go on that little like thing, that little tab
Mm,
in front of your ear, and they
mm.
vibrate there. So they don't go inside the ear hole. They sit on that little tab and they vibrate through that.
They
And
sound pretty good.
they sound really good, and it's weird because you can hear outside and the music and take phone calls all at once. So it's not like you're and I know like some people with headsets like they want their ear like cupped off. It's just weird. You can hear it all. It's a little bit of a different experience, but it was the first time I heard out of my left ear in like years. And I
Really?
was like I was my mind was like, "Holy shit." Cuz I'm so used to just having one headphone in.
How'd you
So,
get your cauliflower ear? Did you get it in MMA or did you get it in jujitsu?
um Well, I've got like little bumps on this one, but you can't really tell. Like you can see like this little bump.
Yeah, I have a couple little bumps on my left
I
ear
think
too.
that was like sparring in a cage, and then the one on my left ear, I was getting ready to do states in Miami, and so I was like training a lot, and I hopped over to a local gym in Safety Harbor, Muchacho's gym,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and
I trained there for the first time last week,
oh cool, yeah, and
or yeah, two
Muchacho,
weeks ago.
he pulled a triangle and his like knee hit my ear, like trying to close it, or me trying to push like pressure into the triangle, so he couldn't. So I basically I didn't want to get my arm caught, so I tried to pressure into the triangle, and his knee hit my ear like right in the middle,
And
and
just blew
then
it up.
it kind of no, it made it like really like sore, but it didn't really blow up. But then the very next day, I went to train, and I trained with Zach Allen, and he shot for a triangle as well, and his foot came straight up the side of my face and skinned my ear. And when
Whew.
he did that, it instantly blew up, felt like it was on fire, hurt like a bitch. Like I knew it the second it happened, like, oh fuck. And then by like we just kept rolling. Like we just went through the whole roll. And then after I went look in the mirror, my ear was like all blown up like a balloon. And I had a friend who like every day we were taking a syringe and sticking it in my ear and then sucking out the juice. And then I would put um these magnets that were about the size of like
Oh, I
a
know what you're
quarter
talking about. The
or a
calla
nickel.
buds.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I would wrap them. I'd wrap Band-Aid around each of them, and I'd clamp them on my ear so that they would hold my ear like squeezed down, like give it pressure. But there was almost like no stopping it. Like I would wake up in the morning, my ear would be blown up again, and I go to drain it. And every day that went by, every time I went to drain it, it went from less liquidy to more like thick, and like it hurt more and more every time I like stuck a needle in there to drain it.
Fuck
But
that, dude.
I
Yeah,
still
see,
got
people
pretty.
think that shit's so tough. I'm like, you couldn't pay me to have to drain. I couldn't poke myself with a needle. I could get punched in the face. I could get choked out. I could get put to sleep, but no way could I put a needle in my ear.
You gotta be a little bit twisted, huh?
Yeah, but I guess if it was between that or have my ear be like all the way blown out with cauliflower ear, I'd probably put a needle in it.
The shitty thing was, and the more important thing to me at that time was I had to go compete with it. So like I had to go
Ooh,
to
and
Miami and do that IBJJF whatever it was, Miami Open or whatever, and you're not allowed to wear headgear or nothing. Like so of course I had to keep training and keep my cardio up and like so throughout training throughout the next week or two, it was still getting dinged and popped here and there. So I was trying to get it like drained and compressed and like hardening as soon as possible so I could go to competition and not worry about it, you know?
so as someone who's had their first like little string of injuries in jujitsu, with like I had my left ankle sprained pretty good, and then last week I had my right ankle popped on a heel hook. Have you had to deal with strings of injury throughout your jujitsu journey?
Oh, yes. Um,
And I know you got a
yeah,
neck one right now from the car accident, but maybe you could talk a little bit about that because I know a lot of people. That's probably what turns them off from jujitsu is in their first couple months their bodies just hurt so bad getting used to the rolling, getting their elbows popped and stuff.
yeah, I'm happy to share that. The hardest thing was because when I walked in the gym, I was like, I didn't train for a long time. I was drinking beer and eating fast food, and although I was a little bit thick and like I wouldn't say I was out of shape because I feel like I was like a little bit bulky, like I had some muscle because I was working out twice a day. I walked in
Damn.
at like 185, which was like the heaviest I've ever been,
Same.
and and then I cut like down to like 170, 175 super fast, but I felt like vicious, like not vicious, but like in a good spot. And then
Hmm.
I got into a car accident. So so here's two. One of them, training with Zach Allen. This is when before him and I were like close, right? This is like when I was relatively new. The only thing I had was like a little bit of wrestling. Like I wasn't afraid to wrestle, and I felt like a lot of jiu-jitsu guys didn't have very technical wrestling, but because I had a coach that was an 8-year wrestler, I had some techniques and some like scrappiness. He went for a single in a scramble, and I went to pull my leg out, and as I was pulling my leg out, he reshot and landed on my leg, and it like twisted my like knee out.
Oh
and I
wow.
could barely walk on it, and it was like the weirdest feeling. But I went to a chiropractor, and they popped it back in, and it was like good to go. It was the weirdest shit ever. But
Really?
for that day or two, it was like weird. Like it was like I was scared. I was really scared. And
Yeah,
then,
it's so scary when you, especially if you hear like a pop for the first time or
mm-hmm,
like
it
any
was a
type of injury, because like in most sports, the injuries happen and it's never like you never really have anything to do with it. But I know both times that I've hurt my ankles, it was like I did have a half second to tap. Like I could have prevented it, but you know, you're either
and
stubborn or it
and
happens really fast.
and look, I'm gonna say like and put my opinion out there on that just from what I've seen and observed and been through. It's a very fucking long journey, and nobody remembers who you tapped to 2 days ago. So it's just
100%.
it's always you got to learn your thresholds, of course. Um, but it's always better to just like fucking let it go and like tap and reset. Who gives a shit, dude? Like I know there's a whole stigma. Like if that was my like advice, kind of looking back, was like would be to tap a little bit more, like just because learn your
Live to fight
threshold.
another day.
Don't be the guy who taps as soon as someone grabs your collar. But like, if shit's getting tight and you're pretty much stuck, like don't sit there and stare at the guy pulling your leg off. Like you know what I mean? Like I'm talking
Yeah,
about
been there.
situations like that, or like if you're stuck in a choke and they're like just like you're pushed down and don't just sit there and stare at the ceiling until you can't take it anymore. Just fucking like okay, I'm in a choke, I'm not getting out. Learn to identify like your threshold. But yeah, that pop was weird. It was a loud enough pop for the whole gym to go, oh, like it everyone stopped rolling and looked over. It was that loud. Zach was like, oh my god, like he was scared. That I got fixed luckily, and then like ever since then like the neck thing, like I got this lady ran into the back of my car. She was going 45 miles an hour. I was stopped at a red light.
Damn.
She slammed right in the back of my truck. It gave me whiplash. I had like 3 herniations. It was bad, and a bulging disc, and that took a lot of rehab and a lot of getting back into it. And then um that was really tough because if you're like me, dude, I don't like to miss days. I don't like to watch other people close in on me. Like I don't want to come back in a year and this fucking dude can now tap me, or
Yeah,
this
some
dude
blue
can.
belt that was a blue belt when you were a purple belt, now a purple belt, and he's
Yeah,
been
like,
training every day, tapping everybody.
or even the guys I'm in competition with now, like the guys that I'm chasing right now, or the guys that I roll with, like and go like ham with now. I don't want to come back and they're out of my reach. Like, so it's really hard.
100%. I feel
It's
that.
it's really hard to sit there and be like hurt. And I'm kind of going through it right now too, because my neck like kind of I don't know if I'm going through like another episode or I did something or I just didn't work hard enough on my rehab and I slacked. It's something that I'm doing or something that happened. I don't know, but like so I'm kind of fighting through like building up my posture strength and my neck strength and I talked to you a lot about that stuff. Um
Yeah, because you know I know a lot about necks because I work in the chiropractic industry, and it's scary. Like I've had I think everyone who does jujitsu, especially when you start, you just have a lot of neck soreness at first, especially if you never wrestled before, and it's scary because your neck is so like intricately involved with the rest of your body. I mean, your spinal cord runs through your spine, runs through your neck. So when you have all these pains and they give you headaches or whatever, it's a little bit scary to go out and want to like roll again.
it's one of the hardest things ever because it's not just pain, but it's like dizziness and fatigue and
And like
like
neurological effects, like yeah, or like
my
nausea.
right eye gets blurry sometimes. Like seeing on my right eye gets a little bit blurry.
And I'm sure for you,
Yeah, and
you got a kid too, so it's like, you know, if something puts me down for a day or for a week, it doesn't only affect you, but it also affects your daughter, and you know, and then your wife's got to pick up slack, so it gets, you know, there's more consequences.
it's very tough because like I know it's cliche, dude, and I was the most like I don't give a fuck person on the mats. Like I was like, I'll die here. like uh, you know, but like yeah, when you have a kid you start thinking about shit like that. Like damn, if I have a migraine and I can't see, like I'm seeing fuzzy and I have like no energy, like I'm gonna miss out on playing with my daughter later, or like or I'm not gonna truly enjoy like little things. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, and that's her whole life right now because at that age, like your parents are everything to you. So I'm sure that feels even like heavier at this age than it would if she was like 12 or 15 or something.
yeah, and just it's part of my battle right now is figuring out the balance of getting back, but how like do I want to end up in the same spot? So, but you know, there's always technique. I can always slow it down and work on technique and just be more humble is where my mentality is right now. I just think instead of being like, I don't know, not being a bitch, but like slowing it down for myself a little bit, playing
Well,
more
yeah,
of the long game.
I think it's a good time too where you can like also pick training partners who have similar goals, who are like, all right, let's take a roll and let's focus on technique instead of like trying to pop each other's heads off for 6 minutes. Let's like,
I
let's
miss
change
going to
our
war
mindset
like that.
about it.
I mean, I
I
still
lo-
do get in those wars, but every round used to be a war like that. You know what I mean? And
oh,
now it's like,
100%.
but I
And
don't know if it's
especially
because
like
I'm
you pick
getting
out
the
a
higher
couple guys.
belts.
Yeah, and those
I,
wars get fewer and far between when you're a purple belt because now you only got like maybe 30% of the gym can even go to war with you like that. Like if I roll with you, I can go to war, but it's not, I'm not putting you to the brakes like it would be if you were going with a brown belt or a black belt.
what's it like
So
being a white belt and watching the upper belts go to war?
it's really interesting because like if when you because you don't really see it at our gym a whole lot where you see like two black belts. Like there was one Sunday where right before what was the competition that Professor and Guillerme and David all did like maybe 6 months
Worlds,
ago. Yeah,
Master
so
Worlds.
when they were preparing for Master Worlds, there was a class where they did like on a Sunday they did competitions. Like everyone sat on the sides of the wall and like David and Zach did a round at full pace. I think Professor and Guillerme did a round at full pace. You don't really see the higher belts go full steam unless they're getting ready for a competition. But when you see that in the gym, then it's really cool to see the guys go that fast, that hard, because it's like they're really trying to choke each other out. They're like really trying to break each other's joints. Obviously, not they wouldn't do it because they know they have a competition, but just to see that technique at that intensity is kind of rare in the gym because there's just not that many black or brown belts or even purple belts. Like what we maybe have 15 people at that rank at our
If
gym.
that,
Yeah, and
not a
maybe
whole
like
lot. I feel like,
5 of them train regularly.
yeah, it'd be interesting. I have to look at it. Yeah, I
But
used to
I
like
think
enjoy like Sundays when Zach and I would like push each other and be like, all right, let's like Zach Allen and you got my little ass going against like the big Titan. I used to like to try to do my best against the Titans, but
and it's
I
kind of
know
funny
people.
because I see like certain like I have certain relationships with like people in the gym that are similar. Like me and like Justin's one of my favorite guys to go to war with because he's bigger than me and we roll hard together and we wrestle hard. And I'm sure for him he's got guys who are like a little bit better than him or a little bit bigger than him that he gets to really go like full blown with. But it's interesting because in jujitsu, if you're a lot better than someone, you don't really have to go that hard to beat someone.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like you could really go 30% with someone. Like if someone walked in today, never did jujitsu, was 145 pounds as a white belt, like I wouldn't take me 100% to choke them out. Maybe if they were like
mm,
crazy strong or crazy wiry and they were just like not gonna accept it. But that's not usually how it is when new people
I
walk
think
into a jujitsu gym.
I think the technique starts compensating. I really do. I think the
Yeah.
technique. I mean, unless you're like constantly competing, then yeah, that's a different thing. But like as far as like on a class scale or comparing yourself to the class, I think um that the as you get higher up and more used to situations, I think you can compensate. Because I used to be working my ass off, like as a blue belt, every single fucking roll was a fight, dude. Like it was like if I got 5 or 6 rounds in a row, I'd be like going home like sore before I went to bed, like,
Oh, there's
and
nights where there's nights where, especially when I go to the white belt classes, because I feel like they're just I don't know. Anyone who does jujitsu knows that if you're in a class full of white belts, it's just scrappy because nobody really knows what
Yeah,
they're doing yet. So it's really more, it's a lot like what a fight on the street would feel more like if
they're
you were grappling with
dangerous.
somebody that's, yeah, you're going to get your hit in the mouth, you're going to get hit in the eyes, you're going to blow your ears up. But
Yeah,
when I get home from those classes, man, sometimes I go to bed and my low back will be on fire, my arms will be on fire. But I'll go to an open mat on Sunday with some of the upper belt guys. I won't tap anyone. I'll do 5, 6 rounds and I won't come home so hurt. So I think there's
yeah.
like, and I like getting to train with, white belts, people at my same level more because it's like, you don't get a lot of offense on when you train against people who are a lot higher belts than you.
I'm little dangerous motherfuckers, bro.
Yeah, really.
I stay
I'm
away from the crazy
all
ones.
the Which is funny. All the injuries I've had have been from upper belts, but all of like the bruises and like, you know what I mean, uncomfortable nights where I feel like I got my ribs bruised or something like that have all been from white belts. And I'm sure I know for a fact I've caused some people like some sore testicles, some bruised chins and like stuff because when you don't
Oh
know what you're
man.
doing, you just kind of freak out.
That is one talking about injuries, bro. That is one thing I never knew was true. I got kicked in the nuts like twice one time. Like, well, two separate times. To the point to where I felt like throwing up and I was dizzy and I did not know that was real. And it happened to me twice. I got
Oh,
kicked in the
I got my first
and
one.
by a
I got my
girl.
first one of those a couple weeks ago. Mm. And there's no revenge you can get.
Oh man. It
Not like
was
you're gonna headbutt him in the boobs.
yeah, right. It's
That's
like,
a
oh,
that
you
that'd be an interesting topic for a podcast for someone one day is what it's like rolling with women because it is definitely like a little different experience when you roll with a woman, especially like a new girl at the gym, opposed to like when you roll with some new guy at the gym who's just some